Namaskar. This is
Namaskar.
60. Namaskar, Savita ji. This is 62nd Kritya talk. See, after this, in the middle of pandemic, we have started the poetry festival for 10 days, and then 3 days Central American Poetry Festival, and then we have in between we have started talks, and this is 62nd talk, and we are happy that we are coming. We are here with a very strong poet, feminist poet who knows how to put her voice, who knows what is the ideology, and who is a scholar and a professor. So, Savita ji, I welcome you in this Kritya talk.
Thank you so much, so much.
Savita ji has got many awards and all, but everything is there in our biodata with our link. So I will directly ask to her about her journey because I know that she knows a lot. So we the 60 minutes are not sufficient. So Savita ji, just I wanted to know that you are the first poet who strongly said that I am a feminist poet in Hindi. That strength in Hindi, many poets or everyone says that I am a feminist, or they are feminist also, like communist feminist and other poets. But you are the pure feminist line. So tell us what is your journey and what is your ideology?
Well, first of all, I'm so thankful to you that you have welcomed me in your talk show, Rati ji. You are yourself a very accomplished poet who has chosen to write in Hindi, which is an extraordinary thing because, as you know, we Indians, we are multilingual people. We speak many languages. We grow up listening to and speaking and learning many languages. But you and I, both of us have chosen to write in Hindi. There's a long story behind all of this, and a very kind of a intellectual tale for me to choose this language in which I would write, where my poetic self, my writerly self, would position itself. So first of all, let me say that it's very important for me to say that I am a feminist poet writing in Hindi. Right, and that makes things a bit complicated because I remember I've been writing poetry in both the languages for a very long time, but it was English in which I was basically sort of speaking out or reading, in places where I used to go as a student. But towards the when I became a little mature, I realized that language itself, the choice of language that we make, constitutes our being. It's as deep as our existence. So it's kind of a Heideggerian thing to say that language is being and so on and so forth. But to actually understand it and practice it in an open fashion, in an intellectual, articulated manner, it's a very different thing. It's a very tough choice. So when I began to say early on that I am a feminist poet, I think some critics have noted that I was perhaps the first Hindi poet who said that I'm a feminist poet. And it used to confuse people as to what does this mean, and today, just as I've always said, today also I will say that it only means that you recognize the awareness of yourself, your writerly self, your poetic self as feminine. And feminine, not defined by others, but the way you define it. That makes you certainly a feminine. It's a very self-conscious kind of situatedness within your practice of writing or talking or whatever. So this is how it started. To be a feminist writer, to be a feminist poet, is always to be comfortable. You are never comfortable because you are living in a system of male domination. You are living in a system of patriarchy, which constantly reminds you that you cannot be equal, that your freedoms must be limited, that yourself must accept certain constraints of the structure which defines you. So I would say to be a feminist poet is to be placed in patriarchy or patriarchal, all patriarchal societies obliquely. You're never straight, you're never comfortable. There is always a struggle, there is always a fight. And the fact that you accept this fight, you have to accept the truthfulness of your situation. So I never desist from speaking the truth. No matter in whatever form patriarchy puts forward its best position, like patriarchy has been co-producing women as well. So just by being a woman, it's not necessary that you'll be a feminist. And patriarchy can use women against women. It has been using women against women. And now more so because feminism has been accepted as a valid position. So those women who are not feminists are also claiming it. And that is making it very hard for women like me. So you land up publicly opposing women, not only men, also women. And that's a huge problem. So that's how I would explain my contemporary situation. I find myself opposing women who write in the name of feminism also. And how to do it's very tough.
You gave me answer what was actually in my mind, and what I always wanted to ask, that what is feminist and who is feminist, the difference between these. So you have explained very well. Thank you very much. Now I want to just know that according to me, there are two kind of feminists, not many kind of, because you may know more than me because I have not studied. But I feel that reading as a female is also a very difficult and very different. Huh? So there is some kind of feminism which is never taught in literature, not taught. And I was reading your article on Shamsher, and there you asked that the question which I was asking for many years indirectly, because I was not coming up as a feminist poet, but I was asking. And this, what we say in Hindi, part, Rachana
Reading.
part. Huh. No, not reading,
So
the Rachana part.
the interpretation that I've done.
The
Yes.
interpretation. Or no, not interpretation, even clearly. For example, Kalidas. You know that why I took Vedas. I changed classical Sanskrit and I have taken Vedas because I was feeling terrible that that Naika Bhed, this her nose is like parrot and eyes like petals and lips like Dardiman. So I said, what is this? Am I a woman or I am a jungle? So uh, in that age, when I was 18 years old, I felt terrific. I feel so bad about it and said, I don't want this literature. Though the Kalidas is Upama Kalidasasya. Okay, fine. But why you are targeting my body all the time? And it is very insulting in the class when you have both gender. So when the such kind of shlokas were taught, the boys you look at the women, girls, and which was very insulting sometimes. So when I read your article on Shamsher, and I saw that you are reading in a different eye, and that was very impressive. You tell me that how, what is this and how do you develop this?
A lot of our our listeners today or our viewers may not know actually who is this person that we're talking about, who is called Shamsher. His full name is Shamsher Bahadur Singh. He is perhaps Hindi's most loved love poet, right? Most progressive poets of Hindi literature model their self, their loving self, after Shamsher's style, the way he structured his feelings through very refined language. He almost become, he has become an epitome of what you could consider as the most delicate love poet, whose intentions of loving women cannot be doubted, who suffers because the love is not returned, the self pity and the mourning and all kinds of suffering that he expresses in his poems, particularly one poem, long poem, Tooti Hui Bikhri Hui, meaning broken and strewn around. That kind of like his self is broken and it's just into various bits and pieces now, lying there. That kind of a thing that he talks about. So basically, it's like a feminine, feminine feminine expression, I would say, of masculine, of the destruction of a masculine self, because love has not been returned. It's a love that is there in the open, unaccepted. So this poem is about that. But somehow the masculine suffering itself became central to a love poem. And the suffering of the beloved, the woman, is absolutely not there. It's non present. It's not as if there are two people who are in love with each other. It's about one poet who is expressing his suffering and is mourning about love being not returned. So I said, look, most of the time the suffering goes into the lives of women. It's their lot. And I think you have come to sympathize with the poet more than his lover, the woman. And throughout, he's simply blaming her, objectifying her, and even cursing her, to the extent that he even curses her that you will not be happy with the man you have gone with by leaving me behind. So all shades of masculine prejudice and jealousy you can see in this poem. So I said, this cannot be a great love. It's a very ordinary poem. Just because the language, the refinement of Hindi language through Urdu. In Urdu, you know that language, Urdu is a language of love, great love poems. And there is a there's a history, there is a accumulated culture of expressing your love in Urdu shairi, shero shairi, and ghazals and nazm. So Shamsher was schooled in Urdu language. He knew most masters of poetry, and he used this to a great effect in Hindi language. But the subject matter betrayed him. The sacrifice, the suffering that one takes silently without complaining, which you'll find in Urdu, is not here in Hindi. As a result, I said that it's the objectification of one's body and her, and invisibilization of her feelings, true feelings of love, which makes this poem not the greatest love poem in Hindi literature. So it's like there's a duplicity here, there's a bad intention here, and there's hardly any love for that woman. I mean, if you truly love somebody, you don't change your mind after you realize that this person is not in love with you, which means it is not enduring. It's just a trade. So all these things I pointed out, and it just gave such a lot of pain to people who loved Shamsher. And you can imagine this could happen only because I identified more with the woman than the man, the poet. So I brought her side of the story and suffering. And it was like giving visibility to woman's self, to her suffering, to her love, to her subjectivity. So it was like the title that we have given for today's talk, I altered the world. I altered the love world of Hindi masculine or masculinity, exposed them to an extent that it was unbearable in the beginning. Only now a series has been started because a lot of people, first they kept quiet, they didn't say anything. Like they were just sort of completely shocked that I attacked such a big poet from my feeble feminine, claims of being a woman, that kind of position. It was like a daring thing. But now, after 10 years, a new discourse has begun on love from a feminist perspective, and also a revised notion of masculine understanding of love. And it's now coming in one of the most important literary journals of Hindi, Alochana. So there are going to be a number of other articles. The first article has appeared in which this person, Rajaram Bhadu, who is a very well-known critic, has criticized me by saying that I was not, I was harsh on Samsher. But harshness, I can accept. I can be harsh. Why should I not be harsh? My life is so harsh. If I cannot love, if I cannot be stable, if I cannot be comfortable in this world, why should others be? By loving, by creating a comfort zone for themselves that they can love, and they are loving beings. So all these kinds of things I've explained. Love is
Thank
the real controversy, the controversial feeling in literature, in Hindi literature now.
Most of the literature, not only in Hindi,
Yeah,
most of the literature.
Hindi needed it so much more.
Hindi needed
can't
because
tell you, Rati, I can't tell you, it was so suffocating. You can't be forcibly loved, or you can't be forcibly blamed or claimed.
So this is true. And actually, we all were feeling for a long time. As I said that even when I was 18 years, I could not tolerate Kalidas. And as a Sanskrit student, cannot tolerate Kalidas, will be fool. I loved his uh, way of telling stories. But I do not like his characters. The way I did not like the way of explaining the women. So this is actually inside our mind. किसी ने बोला है कि आप हिंदी में बोलिए, तो बीच बीच में हम थोड़ा हिंदी में भी बोल लेंगे if they are coming. हाँ
मैं तो हिंदी में ही लिखती हूँ.
हाँ, तो उसमें जो सविता जी ने जो बात की है वो बहुत महत्वपूर्ण है कि जिसके बारे में शायद महिलाएं बहुत सालों से सोच रही थी, और लेकिन वो एक आवाज देने का काम सविता ने किया है, जिससे मैं भी सोच रही थी कि भाई ये क्या है, तुम हमको इतना ज्यादा जैसे कहते हैं ना व्यक्ति वस्तु क्यों बना देते हो, वस्तु, यू बिकेम ए किंग, यू आर नॉट ए मतलब यू आर ए पर्सन, यू आर नॉट ए soul, you are treated, and this is done for centuries. So thank you very much, and I'm sure that one after another many poets will come under your sharp.
Yes, they are already there. Hindi world is buzzing with lovely poets, feminist poets now. I'm very glad.
And moreover, Rajaram Bhadu praised you. You know that. He
praised me obliquely, in an oblique manner. Again, just what I did, he also did the same thing to me. What I did to Samsher.
But no, I think when I was talking about the subject, and he gave your name, that she is the most prominent in as a feminist voice, and he talked about this article. So, as a man, he has to save his ego. So that is another thing. Now, let us see that. Let us come to the feminism. I'm always confused with this word. What is feminist? What is feminist in India? What is feminist? Feminist in South India? What is feminist in North India? Because you know that this feminist changed time to time. It is related to time and space. Uh, so
Correct.
so uh, now for you, what is feminism in literature and your life?
Right, great question. And I'll take a little time,
Yeah,
Rati.
sure. Yeah.
See, there would be no feminism if there was no patriarchy, right? You must understand that it is a product of a particular structure within which women are not treated equally, or not, in some places, not even as equal human beings. Not equal, I mean, just not as human beings. There are cultures in this world, from one end to the other, which differ principally in the way they treat their women, in the way they oppress their women. I can I can write a book of history uh, in a historical and geographical sense, and I can show you that women have struggled for a minimum decent life in almost all patriarchal societies, and it has been very difficult for them to attain that. So, feminism is a product of oppression of women, and oppression can take place at various levels. It can take place at the level of economy, at the level of society, culture, at the level of in literature, for example. So, since we are talking about literature today, I can tell you that in Western part of the world, particularly, and I'm very grateful to those feminists who have tried to uh, take a kind of a systematic approach to understand their position in society. That is to say, if you first say, if you take 18th, 19th century literature in Europe, and you take our literature, Sanskrit literature, Pali literature, you know, in Braj or in Awadhi, all these languages, go and look uh, into the literature, you find that women have been constructed with a great sense of negativity. If they have been praised in the form of Naika, you were just pointing out, then it is a Naika is not someone who has great character. A Naika is someone who has got great beauty. Her face should look like this. Her waist should be of this so many inches, and her breast should be that big, and all kinds of measurements that you can think of. They're called Naika. They are the characters of a Naika. If you're not fair, if you're slightly heavy, if your eyes are not like lotus petals, if your lips are not like rose petals, if your nose are not like parrot beaks, then you are not a Naika. That is the only way, the perfect construction, that masculine construction of women, uh, is the construction which they valued and valued. In a natural form, in an oppressed form, whatever damage women suffered in terms of their character, in terms of their bodily structures, these women were to be necessarily downgraded, or to be treated as a thing, as you pointed out. Someone who was to labor constantly, someone who was to be always obeying their masters, their husbands, their fathers, their brothers, elders. So this is the general universal condition which produced feminism all over the world, because women got fed up. They realized that, at least with the onset of modernity, where for the first time it became acceptable socially and in terms of economy, that all human beings are equal. That freedom is a great thing to have. It's a feature, it's a value that human beings must have. It makes you prosper as a person. And justice is something that we should fight for. These are all modern values, Western modern values, right? And it certainly has constituted, given the base for women to claim all this. If equality is a great value, then why should inequality be practiced in its place? If freedom is a great value, if it does something great to human life, why should it be denied to women? Why should it be only available to men? These questions came up, and obviously, the first phase in the Western part of the world of feminism, the liberal feminism, where women ask for similar rights and equality and justice and so on and so forth. And equality meant going to universities, asking for same kind of education, right to vote, right to be standing in political sphere. And yet the patriarchy kept on dividing spaces between public and private, kept on putting women in the private sphere and allowing men to operate solely in the public sphere. All of this was challenged by liberal feminists. Then, once this confidence was gained, women began to also ask for economic equality. They began to ask for decent wages. They wanted their labor to be valued. They wanted their labor to be considered as productive, even the reproductive labor, even the fact that women produce other human beings, not without labor, and it is not for no other reason that when women begin to give birth to children, people say she has gone into labor. It's a huge laboring thing, the reproduction process and reproductive activity, full of suffering and great hardship, I should say. It's never, like when people say, they kind of naturalize it and normalize it by saying कि ये तो औरतों का ही है, काम ही है उनको बच्चे पैदा करना, तो इसमें क्या ऐसी बात है? But if they look at the mortality rate, mother's mortality rate, children's mortality rate, child's mortality rate is huge. हिंदुस्तान में कितनी औरतें सिर्फ बच्चे को जन्म देने में मर गई? So many women died just giving birth to children. कितने सारे जन्म देने के बाद के बच्चे मर गए? ये सब पूरा उसी का हिस्सा है. ये नहीं कि सिर्फ बच्चे को शरीर से बाहर निकाला ही रिप्रोडक्शन है. It's not that. उसका पूरा प्रोसेस है. उसके बाद उसकी नर्चरिंग, ये वो सब तो वही करना है, उसी को करना है. और उसका क्या वैल्यू है? Who gives? Who even considers it to be something to be valued in terms of money or in terms of comfort or in terms of dignity? कुछ नहीं है. So it became a huge thing for women to claim value for it. And they began to visibilize their labor. क्या काम करती, कितने काम करती, so on so all over the world. I am also socialist feminist, Rati ji, I should tell you that I put a lot of value kind of work that I do and the kind of indecent and unsatisfactory lives they lead. It's a huge loss for humanity to put half of its population or even more than half into this kind of invisible darkness where it is not to be seen, it is not to be understood, it is not to be valued. And then the third phase, when it began, then the theory actually flourished quite a bit, feminist theory. Epistemology, feminist epistemology developed, ontology developed. Women came into their own, because they had their own theories to understand their problem. जब आपके पास अपना कोई theoretical structure ही नहीं है, आपका सोचने का जो नजरिया है, उसमें आप subject है ही नहीं. Only men are the subjects of all systems of knowledge. जब ये होगा तो आपको कैसे कोई समझेगा? How will they understand? तो वो सिस्टम तैयार हुआ जिसको हम स्टैंड पॉइंट थ्योरी कहते हैं. फेमिनिज्म में चीज आई, एपिस्टेमोलॉजी आई, और वुमेन के एक्सपीरियंस को प्रायोरिटी मिली. वुमेन्स एक्सपीरियंसेस वे प्रायोरिटाइज्ड, दे बिकेम द डेटा. और ये इट वाज अ ह्यूज चेंज फेमिनिज्म. और अभी तो हम प्रोड्यूस, आई थिंक वी आर प्रोड्यूसिंग द बेस्ट theory, based literature, क्योंकि बहुत सारी बातें तो कही नहीं थी. Men never bothered to, and they never understood. Only women, when they came into their own with their language and their theories, that they have begun to say things which were unsaid earlier. And they are extraordinary things as far as human life is concerned. So we have now postmodernism, post-feminism, post-structuralism. All of these things have got together to produce ultimately a kind of feminism to which most women in the world are relating. Right? And it's huge. It's like another symbolic order is being raised, where women can feel that they have stake in this symbolic order. They can see which things they have done. उनका कौन सा काम है, कौन सी ईंटें उन्होंने लगाई इस महल को तैयार करने में. They can recognize. तो अभी जो फेमिनिज्म का हाल है, ये है कि ये बहुत ही उन्नत सिस्टम है. सोचने समझने और होने का। और जो भी औरत या मर्द, men or women, जो भी लोग हैं, those who have come to understand this, there is a lot of light in their minds. They're truly enlightened. No, men and women can love each other better now, because love also requires understanding. If men don't understand women, they will love them in the way they think is the best, which is not the best, because there is hardly any recognition of subjective feelings of women. Most of the times इंडिया में देखेंगे आप कि प्रेम के नाम पर सिर्फ औरत सेक्रीफाइस करती है, उसी को पुरुष प्रेम भी करता कहता है। तो ये है अभी हम मतलब समानता की भाषा क्या होती है, इसको हम बोलने लगे हैं, इसको हम क्लेम करने लगे, उससे बहुत फर्क पड़ गया। और बहुत सारे लोग कहते हैं कि हिंदी में इतनी ज्यादा लड़कियां क्यों लिख रही हैं अभी। they should understand they are writing because they have come to understand they have a space now. Always women must have written. I suspect, and most women know, women have always written. But इस तरह से पब्लिक स्पेस में आके लिखना पहली बार हो रहा है। जहां तक रिलेशनशिप की बात है लिटरेचर और फेमिनिज्म का, उसमें भी 3 phases हैं। एक, when feminists began to recover the writings of other women, क्योंकि वो तो इनविजिबल था, कोई जानता ही नहीं था। आपको मालूम है कि जिस वक्त मीराबाई लिख रही थी, उस वक्त कम से कम 25 उतनी कॉम्पिटेंट भक्ति पोइट्स थे जिनके बारे में अब लिखा जा रहा है ना। उसी तरह से हर पीरियड में था मैंने वुमेन हूँ। तो इसकी रिकवरी, उसके बाद पुरुषों ने जो कंस्ट्रक्शन किया स्त्रियों का, उसका क्रिटिसिज्म, उसके बाद थर्ड फेज में आया है विमेन्स ओन राइटिंग, जो फेमिनिस्ट राइटिंग आप कहती है ना, जो मैं करती हूँ, मेरी और भी कॉलिग्स कर रही हैं, वो थर्ड फेज है जिसमें हम लोग आए हुए हैं। और बहुत ह्यूमिलिटी के साथ मैं ये कहना चाहती हूँ कि हम जो लिख रहे हैं वो अपने समय का बेस्ट है, क्योंकि इसमें वो सफरिंग है, उसकी रिकग्निशन है और एक सच्चाई है, क्योंकि लिटरेचर का संबंध ट्रूथ से है। लिटरेचर शाइन्स व्हेन इट स्पीक्स ट्रूथ, क्योंकि पेन जो है उसका भी एक ट्रूथ होता है, सफरिंग का भी ट्रूथ है और हैप्पीनेस का भी ट्रूथ होता है ना। तो वो सब चीजें जब ट्रूथफुली कही जाती हैं, then they make sense, they reach other people very easily, and a new sensibility is of course developing now, in which I think people like me and others can write better, because we don't have fear of being misunderstood or being blamed for something.
So, audience are very much happy with you. But
Thank you.
what I want to say that actually you at the end you have replied my question was what I wanted to ask you. Then when you say that it was documented, but in India you have replied this thing that in India it was not documented.
Now it's getting done.
So they have not documented the word of women purposely or with any mentality. Because I have translated the love poems of Atharva Veda, and in Atharva Veda, there are some love poems where the woman is also asking for a man openly, his body, and men are also asking. Men are also praying that women should feel for my body. It's here actually first time I am seeing, and that is of the first poem. This the very early most, because it was the Prakrit time. It was Vedic means not
Prakrit,
a culture.
yes.
It was a Prakrit.
Prakrit is a great language.
No, not Prakrit language. It is Atharveda, but Prakrit means it is. We say that it is a this thing. It is, but it was the raw society. That is Prakrit. Natural people were there. So there only I saw that man is praying to Aushat that my beloved, that woman whom I love, should find my body so beautiful. And he wanted to change his body for the women. That those poems are there. And many people, actually the problem in Hindi is that actually now I'm happy that the girls are doing very good. But when I was going to Delhi, because I'm not going for a long time, not only Delhi, North India, I have not gone for a long time. So that what was the idea that on the stage, nine male poets and one woman poet. And then for the one woman poet, they will ask to read first and go to hell. And then nine poet will be dominate the stage. That was there when I was there, and I stopped going there. So now I'm happy that girls are doing very good, and I should praise them. So in that time, uh, जब हम उतने पुराने काल में हम देख रहे हैं कि there were some questions, there were they were asking questions. Those days women could go to sabha and question the character of the man. That time we have lost, and because these things are also documented by whom? By the male dominant. That is why they have documented only Gargi because she questioned Yagyavallakya, but there might have been many women like Gargi. They have not documented. So this thing keep on going, and as you say that in Bhakti Kal, not only in Meera, before that even Akka Mahadevi, she
yes.
was against
I only
her
mentioned it.
family.
Yes.
Ha
Yes.
ha. Again, and she was before Meera against Mahadevi. They say Laldyat and all. They were against society, and they were asking question. And there were 1,000 women who were doing but not documented. These women could be documented because they could not be ignored. उनको इग्नोर ही नहीं कर सकते. और दूसरी बात है कि मैंने तो लोगों के मुंह से ये भी सुना है महादेव अच्छी कवित्री नहीं थी. मतलब ये मैंने मेल के मुंह से सुना है. भाई हम तो उनको बहुत आनंद से पढ़ते थे. व्हाट इज द क्राइटेरिया ऑफ अच्छी कवित्री? Because for her that she had beauty, for her language was so beautiful, her feelings were beautiful, emotions were very beautiful. That's what we need for the poetry. But because she is writing a kind of virha kavita or love poetry, it does not fix it in your structure, and that is why I say वो अच्छी कवित्री नहीं थी. So this happened in Indian continent. We have been not documented. So I think this work should be done because documentation of the strong poet or strong writers or strong women. क्योंकि आप ये देखिए कि बंगाल में भी है जिन्होंने फाइट किया. आई नो दैट आई एम फॉरगेटिंग द नेम कि एक बिहार में सीमंतनी का नाम की एक पुस्तक लिखी गई थी. एंड इन दैट she has written, that woman has written how the woman was uh, were prohibited to even taking bath. क्योंकि पानी की कमी होगी, बाहर से पानी लाना होगा, तो वीक में एक बार ही स्नान करना है और ये करना है, इसे नहीं करना, उसे नहीं करना. And that book was written in 18th century by a woman. I have seen the women written some small documentation written by in Assam and that area, which were written by women, but those books are not highlighted, or those books did not come to the mainstream. दूसरी बात
That is
मुझे सबसे बड़ी अजीब सी ये लगती है कि जब फेमिनिस्ट पोएट्री में वो कहते हैं उसने ऐसा किया, उसने ऐसा किया, तो जितने पुरुष होते हैं वो ताली बजा के हंसते हैं, वाह वाह वाह, बहुत खुश होते हैं. मतलब ऐसे तो शादी में जो वो गाली देते हैं ना, गाली सुनने का तुमको लग रहा है मजा आ रहा है, यू आर एंजॉयिंग दैट. तो मतलब उससे यू आर नॉट चेंजिंग योरसेल्फ, यू आर एंजॉयिंग that when woman is writing a kind of a woman poetry, not, I'm not talking about contemporary because I'm talking about 10-20 years back. After that I'm not coming to North India. No, not coming means I am not invited there. So this
okay.
was
I will invite you.
also
Next time I'll invite you.
this
Ratiji.
was this was a strange thing for me कि भाई ऐसा क्यों, तुम उसकी बड़ी तारीफ कर रहे हो लेकिन तुम्हारी मेंटेलिटी क्या है. थर्ड थिंग आई फील स्ट्रेंज कि जैसे मैं, आई एम नॉट गिविंग एग्जांपल ऑफ इंडियन पोएट, आई एम गिविंग एग्जांपल ऑफ टर्किश पोएट. शी वाज राइटिंग very deadly poetry. The woman is a dead body on the shoulder of a man, like kind of thing. And the men were there also in some international poetry festival. They were enjoying. She was beautiful. And the woman who was writing this was going all everywhere because of his boyfriend who was 60, 65 years old, and he was established publisher and writer who could spend money on her. So that is double face. अगर तुम feminist हो, then you don't take stand on your own feet. So ये भी मैंने देखा है. Not on इंडिया में शायद I am not so very close to words, but internationally also I have seen that. So not from all European countries, I don't find such thing. But
would you not praise a man? Would you not praise a man
not
who takes
praising
his wife?
No, she's not wife. She's she is lover, and she's not praising lover. She is utilizing that man, and then you're writing against such poetry, and just utilizing means she's
I will
not
tell
wife.
you the psychology. This psychology is not so simple, Ratiji. It's man who needs also to take his beloved and lover with him. It's a very, very complicated issue. It's not so simple that women are taking advantage. It's a complicated issue. It's a relationship.
Yes, that is also there. But अगर आपके पास ideology है, you have to find out where you stand and where you stand.
Feminism does not teach you to insult men or to leave them or to reject them. No. Feminism basically is a form of understanding, right? It's a form of very developed understanding about possibilities of human self-realization, in my view. And when you are in love, you rise above many, many things. If it is true love, obviously.
Yeah,
if it is not a trade.
If it is not a trade, most of the time it is trade only. It is a give and take.
If it is not, that is what I'm saying.
Most of the times it is give and take.
Yeah. But if it is love, then there is a constant feeling of oneness. It's a constant feeling of running into each other's self, feeling each other at the level of sensibility. Even the body, for example, becomes almost like feeling. Body also becomes just a shape filled with great feelings. These things are possible. No?
I'm agree.
And then
I'm agree.
men and women can just go to wherever they want if they are so close. If they're so close, they can come and go. There is no problem. But as you rightly suspected, it could be that women are also using men.
Yeah, that also. That's what
women have used men because once they have come to suspect that this man loves her for her body, for her beauty, then they become in a very clever manner. They manipulate men. Men love to be manipulated. They even knowing that they are being manipulated. They allow women to manipulate.
That's what I felt.
There are just so many things happening simultaneously. So you can't get angry with women, all right? For this.
No, we cannot get angry. I'm not getting angry. But what I say that there should be some honesty in your writing also, as a poet.
Truth, as I said, relationship of truth with your writing is absolutely a must. Otherwise, you'll be doing all kinds of fake writing.
Fake writing.
Not a fake writing.
You should not have fake writing. That's what I wanted to.
You can learn technique of writing, and you can produce a number of fake pieces. Novels and poetry. A lot of fake writing is around. I mean, even in Hindi, it's just an artificial.
I know.
There's a technology of poetry which allows poetry to be come out of a factory or something like that. That manufactured poetry. That is there, but you cannot eliminate this possibility because the modern world in which we live, which runs on technology. So technology could be of self, technology could be of poetry, of fiction. Hundreds and thousands of people are teaching how to write poetry, how to write fiction.
Yeah.
All right. What is it?
Yeah.
I mean, can you be taught to write poetry? I mean, I would be surprised. I would be really surprised. You can approximately, approximate or reach approximately closer to poetry, but you cannot get poetry by learning certain techniques. No, that's not possible.
वही मेरा मतलब है कि कविता के लिए जो विशुद्धता चाहिए, कहानी के लिए इट्स ओके, कहानी तो आप क्रिएट कर सकते हैं ना, बिकॉज नॉट नेसेसरी कि आप उसको यू कैन वॉच समवन एंड यू कैन राइट, but poetry, whatever you watch, even though you're writing for someone, you are there. So एक honesty होती है, one kind of honesty where you
See,
can connect.
honest and good poetry, which is very rare to come by. You have to be a poet, really a poet, not someone who has learned to be a poet. If you're a poet,
Yeah,
whatever
true.
you write, even two sentences, they are full of light. They bring a sense of light. They bring a sense of sky. They bring a sense of wind, earth. It renews you as a self, someone who's listening. Poetry has that immense power of renewing your humanity, right? This morning I was reading, Philip Larkin, a British poet. A lot of people don't think he's very great, but I simply love his poetry. And whenever I read him, I feel that I'm in that space. I can recognize where he might have written that poem.
Yeah, this happened with
That kind of
translation also.
that kind of intimacy, if you can transfer to your reader, has great poetry, right? And some are very great celebrated poems. Like, I'm not denigrating any big poet, but like T.S. Eliot and all that, are great poets. One has read them so much and so many times that you crave for reading something new. Poetry has to give you that sense, because otherwise this world is too boring. Our oppressions are too oppressive, and it's also too very well known. So the feeling of being oppressed. Too sorry.
So yeah, what you are saying
Understand?
is
So
correct.
that
Yes.
is what I'm saying. So if poetry does not give you that, a sense of renewal, a sense of being renewed, then it's not a great poetry, no matter how great the poet might be. That is the
I,
thing.
I say same thing for even translation. I say that if I don't like poetry, and same way the poet's expression, I cannot translate those poems will not open for me. While reading poetry also, some poems open for me and some poems don't. They are closed. I read them, but I don't understand. This happened to me many times.
In fact, you're right. Translation can also open up poetry for you in a newer sense. Sometimes the translation is better than the original. I can also say this. I'm not denigrating anybody, great poets or anybody. I'm saying my experience. This is how
Yeah,
I experience. Poetry, translation can open up new doors, new windows within yourself. They can reach you perhaps better. This has happened many times with me, and then you might be in a ideological sense, you might be something, but some poem which is not written by a very progressive poet, but there is honesty in it, there's an authenticity in it. It touches you still, you know. So these kinds of contradictions, conundrums are there in a poetic world. The only thing that poetry herself does not admit is this tech technology of poetry, or which is the making poetry a product of a factory of mind. That is something that she does not like, and she'll never come to such people.
so would you like to
Like,
read your poems
okay, so what kind of
in
poem?
any
Hindi
you
में
like?
पढ़ो.
हिंदी में भी पढ़िए, उसका इंग्लिश ट्रांसलेशन भी पढ़ सकते हैं तो पढ़िए.
अच्छा ठीक है. So let me read something.
Not all.
No,
Some.
I'll just read one or two.
No, not in every poem should not be translated into English. लेकिन कुछ आप हिंदी में पढ़िए और कुछ का with translation पढ़ लीजिए या without translation English में पढ़ लीजिए. Whatever you like.
Okay, I'll try to do something. I lived in many places in the world that you would know. And I wrote poems wherever I went. There is one poem I have used blue color as the substantive color of my poetic world. So I am going to read a poem called Neela Sansar. Blue stands for many, many things in my poetic world, my poetry. Blue is also, I try to sort of talk about blue night, for example, blue dreams, blue color of my being, for example. All those things I've talked about. This is a very representative poem which I'm reading. अभी थोड़ा अंधेरा है, अभी थोड़ा अंधेरा है, भाषा में भी सन्नाटा है अभी, अभी बिखरे पड़े हैं रेशम के सारे धागे, सपनों के नीले संसार में ऐंठे, अभी कुछ भी व्यवस्थित नहीं, कविता भी नहीं। मैं चल रही हूँ लेकिन इसी अंधेरे में जागी चुपचाप समझती कि जो नीले रेशमी डोरे तैर रहे हैं और जो भाषा सन्न है मेरी ही चुप से, वो सब कुछ मेरा ही है, एक परख नली मेरे अंधकार की, गहरी नीली खाई मेरे होने की। थोड़ा अंधेरा है और मैं चल रही हूँ लिए नींद बगल में. This translation has been done by. बाद में मैं काम कर रही हूँ. It's called Blue World. This has been translated by my friend Sukrita Paul Kumar. We did a feminist translation of each other's poems, and we came out with a book called Rowing Together. It's a bilingual text. She translated my poems from Hindi to English, and I translated her from English to Hindi. This is her translation, Blue World. It is a bit dark yet. In language too, there is silence yet. All the silken threads lie dispersed yet. Twisted in the blue world of dreams, nothing is organized yet, not even poetry. But I keep moving in this very darkness, awake, quiet, realizing that those floating blue silken threads, as also the language that is dumb due to my own silence, all of that is mine, a test tube of my darkness, a deep blue ditch of my being. It is a bit dark yet, and I keep moving with sleep by my side.
Beautiful, very beautiful. You know that my granddaughters, so when we go to buy their cards for birthday and all, if you say that card to granddaughter, they are always in pink color. And my granddaughters warn me that Nani, don't send me pink card, pink dress, no pink. You can the blue is the best color, otherwise no pink at all. So this I think these young girls also started learning that we are not pink. We are not pink. They hate hating pink.
Blue, violet, brinjal, purple. These are the colors now women like very much. No, it's like feminine color.
She's 10 years old. So she does not know the feminism and all, but she does not like. So, and I feel
I will read you another poem, Rati.
Yeah.
It's a part of this poem I haven't read very many times. I think maybe for the first time I'm reading somewhere. It's a series of poems that I wrote on Montreal. While I was living there, I was studying at McGill University doing my PhD. But I wrote many poems and short stories and a number of things I noted down in my diary, all prose pieces and poetry pieces. Slowly and gradually, they're all coming in a more mature form in my poetry. So this is one of the series of 12 poems that I wrote. I call them Montreal poems. So it is Waiting for Snow. इसका हिंदी में है पहले, उसके बाद इसका ट्रांसलेशन सुकृता ने किया है अंग्रेजी में। बर्फ का इंतजार, इट्स लाइक इटर्नल वेटिंग फॉर so many things that we want in our lives basically. बर्फ का इंतजार, अन्य मनस्क पीली पड़ रही जिज्ञासा से ढकी मेपल के पत्तों वाली जैसे कोई डाल हूं, जिससे लगकर हवा गुजरती है, जिस पर आसमान अपना थोड़ा नीला रंग टपकाता है, जिस पर सूरज अपनी सबसे कमजोर किरण फेंकता है। अन्य मनस्क फिर भी मेरा मन बर्फ के गिरने का इंतजार करता है। बर्फ सब कुछ ढक देती है, पाप, दुख, शाप, छोटी मोटी बेचैनियां, सुख में चमकने वाले हीरे जैसे एक दो क्षण पर ढक देती है गिलहरियों के हृदय में व्याप्त यह डर कि उन्हें कोई हर लेगा। अन्य मनस्क बार बार क्यों चाहती हूँ वही जो मुझे उदास करे, ढक ले। The English translation is like this. Waiting for snow. Indifferent, I am somewhat like a branch of maple trees, covered with yellowish curiosity, caressed by passing breeze, on which the sky drops a bit of its blue color, on which the sun throws its weakest ray. Disinterested yet, my heart waits for the snow to fall. Snow covers up everything: sin, sorrow, curse, small anxieties and worries. One or two moments shining in happiness, diamond-like. It covers the fear filled in the hearts of the squirrels that they may be abducted by someone. Different, why do I again and again wish for what? Why do I again and again wish for that? It saddens me, shrouds me.
Beautiful poem. I can feel it. I can feel it because the snow and everything. When you listen it or when you read it, you can feel this. So I know that these are very sensitive poems which do not talk much but gives you a big scenery. You can see, you can watch it as a painting, you can watch as a photograph, and you can watch as a memory, and you can listen also in a beautiful voice, a beautiful presentation also. So, do you
Thank
want to say something more, Savita?
I don't know, depends on if there is any question, if anybody has asked, expressed any curiosity. If you have anything
No, because everyone is just praising you.
praising me. Okay, so I want to tell them something that I have done recently, which is a very, very hard thing to do. Rati, go back again to the question of love, for example, question of love, because I've been attempting to define it. I've been attempting to sort of write about it. Feeling is one thing. Writing that feeling in the way that it is equal to that feeling is something very hard. After all, language also has its limitations. Everything, only some things can be expressed in language. Philosophy, a lot of people say language is everything. Without language, there is no thinking, there is nothing. But like Roy Bhaskar, with whom I worked, and I learned this thing from him, he said that, Savita, there are some layers of our existence which forever wait to be understood because the adequate language is not there. And that is why it is necessary that we also work on language simultaneously as we work on epistemologies and ontology. So, keeping this in mind, I try to write love poems, feminist love poems, what they could be. How could they bring out what is there as the deepest layer of feminine subjectivity, from where we try to love not only men, we try to love trees, we try to love nature, we try to love was all creatures of this world. I want to tell you all that I love even the smallest creature, the creature that is not even visible. I have tried to show compassion even to coronavirus. I've tried to understand as to why we should just kill this. Why should we not extend our understanding to this creature which is so powerful? Why should we always have this destructive attitude towards it? Perhaps if we change our attitude, we will not have these kinds of attacks coming from the world of germs and insects and so on and so forth. So, starting from this kind of deep sympathy, I try to write poems, love poems, which are now going to be out very soon. They are collected in a book form titled Prem Bhi Ek Yatna Hai. Love is also a great pain. And when you understand that pain emerges from love itself, not like Buddhists that it emerges from our lust for life, or from that kind of thing. It emerges from true desire. If you feel, then you do not want to transcend it. You do not want to remove it from your life. You would rather continue with it because it's pleasurable in spite of being very painful. So there are a number of this I have done, and it's been very hard for me to do it. It will open up many gates for a lot of women to understand their depth of their feelings, as far as amorous feelings. The desire, not only bodily desire. Bodily desires are quite limited in a way, but the desire of your spirit to feel happy, to be comfortable in this world, is something that is so very hard. I think in my own life, I only have such moments. Most of my life has been sort of coping with either love coming from others, or I'm trying to love somebody who doesn't love me. I think the story of most women will be like this. There have been only few moments when I've been absolutely sure that what I'm feeling is right. What I'm feeling is true, it's not interfered. It's emerging from the depth of my existence, that kind of thing. Because we forget what are the layers of our existence. We become very insensitive just trying to live, coping with life itself. Living life becomes more important than loving. That kind of cleft, kind of contradiction, most of the time we are operating. In this collection, I try to expand that moment in which you don't face this contradiction, where you can just relax and say, yes, this is a love, desire, pure desire. Pure desire, women can write about it because they hardly have an opportunity to satisfy their desire. It just lingers on inside you. It's like the greatest passion this world hasn't actually seen. Those passionate feelings have not been expressed, in my view. Because Rati, in this world, passion often meets death. Passion can lead you so easily to death because the society is against passion. It is seen as a disorder, as a factor that disorders the world. And I would say that passion, which is honed, which is articulated, which is made sophisticated by our maturity, this passion will alter the world. It's a world ordering feeling. For this, one can stake one's life, I think. And without that, you can't have revolutions, you can't have great change. These days, I'm rereading rather, Herbert Marcuse's Heroes and Civilization. And you can see that this person is trying very hard to give this lesson to people that look, your eroticism, if you expand it, you can change a whole entire mode of production. You can change capitalism, because capitalism always shortchanging you as far as realization of your erotic feelings are concerned. It's forcing you to work more and more, labor more and more, and enjoy less and less. This kind of system you'll never acquire. You'll never acquire yourself. You'll be acquired by the system of production. And as a result, you'll forever be oppressed. So, in the end, this is what I'll say, that it's a great work, it's a great act of honesty to express desire. And it's a great act, a revolutionary act on the part of human beings to work for realization. So, no doubt, it's an incredible force, passion, it's a drive, which can change many things. Relationships can change. You can get into a new phase of your life by acknowledging it and expressing it. This is also a feminist lesson. This is also something that feminists are trying to work it out, because they are the ones who are women are the most denied ones. Men somehow manage to satisfy the desires. Women have no chance. They have to be dutiful and sacrificing. They've got to be all the time a mother. Even as a wife, you're a mother. That's the problem.
Yeah, this is actually, frankly speaking, this is a humanity, and that is why we are in our tradition. Also, we cannot condemn our tradition. The Shankar Ras is the Sarvopari Ras. The Shankar Ras is the Sarvopari, is best, and that is why the Kalidas has used even Kumara Sambhav also with the Shankar, and
Yes.
he shows with the love only. That is the thing. When it is utilized so much, then we get irritated. Otherwise, this happened in ancient literature, and this was the aim even for Kama Shastra. The Kama Shastra aim was not wrong for this modern kind of thing. It was to establish the love, the celebrating the love. That was the aim of Kama Shastra. If you read carefully,
I have read it.
So if
Not
you
once,
read,
many times.
so if you read carefully, even the Vivaha Sutra, Sukta of Rigveda and Atharveda, there also they talk about the love. They say that the love is the main thing between you. In between, we lost those things, our literature and our culture and our family, and we reached to this stage that love marriage is the biggest sin in this. You'd forget about the Mahanagar, even when my daughters were getting married and all. And that time also, people were educated, people were hesitating to tell that my daughter had a love marriage. So we reached up to this stage that was actually sometimes we call that we are cultured, but we are uncultured. Sometimes we go upward and sometimes we go downward. So we came downward. So I think what you're doing is the need of time. It is important.
Thank you.
It is
Glad you
important
share this.
to celebrate the love, to celebrate the Shringara, which is actually the 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 what you say that Navarasa, which is the base of all Navarasa, which is the base of your life, base of creation, base of bhakti. So all everywhere, this is the best thing. So I'm very happy that you are doing this work, and my best wishes that you
Thank you.
you go. And it is good for us that somebody is bringing a different kind of feminism theory, which is very important. I wanted to give one example because it is time is over, but I want to give because it will be helpful to you also. That what happened, how the women are treated by the male critics. I give two examples from the Kerala. I'm not talking
Kerala.
about
Yes.
Kerala. You know that Kamala Das, she is the
Yes, yes. I was long listed for Kamala Das Award, by the way, last
so
year.
Kamala Das was writing poetry in English, okay, and she was writing stories in Malayalam. So she was only the school graduate, not, but she had perfect, not very much perfection, but she has a beauty of language, and she was doing that, using that. Why she was writing poetry into English? Because the boldness at that time, because time and space is important, she was the only bold woman at time, was not there, what not possible. Nobody would publish her in Malayalam, so she had to write in English. But same time, stories, her stories, those stories were also very, very popular. But she was, they were getting place in the leading papers. And uh, those days, I remember when she used to come to college, the thousands boys and girls who means that make sound and welcome her. That like when she was above 60s, and still they were she was welcomed like a like
Teenager.
the Katrina
Young
Kaif
woman.
or a young woman, Katrina Kaif and all, because they wanted they were impressed by her voice. And same time she was bitterly criticized by the local Dained uh,
She was
Malayalam
disturbing the order.
order. So she
Disturbing the
was,
social order.
yeah. So I was not, and one more interesting thing. One of my Malayali friends, she was not a writer. But she told me that in my father's day, when the story of Kabla Das used to come in a paper, the circulation of paper increased 3 times, because father used to buy one copy for himself, son will buy one copy for himself, mother will buy another copy for himself.
They all read her secretly.
Secretly, but openly they were criticizing her.
This is
And
the hypocrisy of patriarchy. This is how this is so
uh,
hypocritical.
and I am telling them another thing. The Balamani Amma, whom I have translated 365 poems, and she was fantastic poet. She has not gone to school. She was very, very Gandhian kind of, only the white dress, non-vegetarian, but she was very strong woman. Nobody talk about. And she has written. She was never gone out, or because she become to Tarvada family. Tarvad means the women don't go out. So she has written about the Naxalites problem. She has written about the about all this poor and rich and servants, and how the servants are treated in the family and all. She was writing about all this, and you know that all critic wrote about her that Amma Kavi, Amma poet. They put her in Amma because she looked like Amma. She was simple. Her presentation, she was just opposite in presentation to Kamala Das. So Amma poet, and one or two poems, a few poems were written for the granddaughter and daughter, one or two, one for Kamala Das and all. But the woman who is who is questioning Ramayana, who is questioning all the mythological character, she was the feminist, most strong feminist Balamani Amma, but Amma poet, because there is no category like this. And then she was thrown into the darkness, and she cannot die because her one or two poem will be there in some course. You know? But there is no translation of poems except my translation into Hindi.
Oh, I see.
Huh.
That's wonderful.
And she was not written anything. Nothing is written, no criticism on her. So and I have written a book on her long back, and
You've written in Hindi?
Hindi, Sahitya Academy. And when Ayappa Panikar asked me to thought that he will make it translated into Malayalam for Malayali readers. So nobody was ready, and one professor told me that who will read Balamani Amma? Everyone is interested in Kamala. So, so this is the best example of those.
No, Kamala Das is a great poet, no doubt about it. Great sort of feminist.
Balamani Amma is
created-
great. Bala Amma was greater because her area was very big.
Yeah. I mean, the
Very,
second sentence, of course, is this, the one that you just said.
uh,
I know. So this awareness, talking has helped. It helps. people who are listening, they're coming to understand that things that we are talking about of utter importance, others also have felt it, and others have tried to also capture it. But in every era, every time frame, these things have to be done again and again. As you said, that the history moves not in one steady, unilinear manner. There are loops and loops of dialectical moments within history, and things can, go down or go up. So our attempt should be to make life livable, knowledge pleasurable, and society itself more tolerant towards women's desires and women's knowledge and their experiences. We should have more freedom. I think women should have more freedom to move about, to think, to talk, to write. Feminist literature, it should be given a great chance now. Otherwise, we are going to go down as a whole, in the sense the earth itself is in such a big crisis. Patriarchy has to allow us, not uh, seduce our knowledge for their own gain. They should allow this form of knowledge, feminine knowledge and experience, to constitute the basis of new order. I mean, it'll be a great one, something that no one has experienced in any country, any civilization. We are at that juncture. There's a great hope and there's a great despair. Both of them are simultaneously present. We have to see what comes out, what we achieve, what we simply lose out on. I somehow get nightmares that we just might be great losers. Might lose. Sometimes I'm full of great moments of optimism. No, it can be corrected. I can do it. Let me write this. Let me write that. Small way. But it's just a small bird's contribution to great ocean of trouble that we are in now.
So it was very nice to talk to you, and thank you very much. It was wonderful talk, and hope we will meet again with your criticism book and all. So and your another project. So hope we will meet again. So thank you,
Certainly.
Savita.
It was a great pleasure. Rati. Great pleasure talking to you. Really, I've been most comfortable while talking to you. This is a wonderful evening that I spent. And I say goodbye to our listeners and our viewers. I love you all, even though I don't see you. And be hopeful, remain hopeful for me and for yourself, so that we live well in this world. Thank you so much, and good night.
Good. अच्छा हो गया, बहुत अच्छा हुआ.
हाँ. तो ये YouTube पे अपने आप चला जाएगा.